Hello and welcome back to In the Corner. I'm Cash. Today we're here with episode 58. It's Wednesday, June 4th. I know it's been a while since the last episode. Summer is very busy, so from now on, as it has been, it's probably going to be about 2 episodes a week. One in the middle, in the early/middle part of the week, where we'll talk about the fights that happened over the weekend and any breaking news, and then another one on the back half of the week where we'll preview the upcoming weekend. So next episode will actually probably come out either Thursday or Friday. Very, very big weekend of combat sports coming up. I think that there's 12 total events, at least that I'll have an eye on. Really big boxing events, really UFC pay-per-view, just everything across the board. It's going to be great. But before we get to that, we're going to talk about what happened this last weekend. And we're also going to start with some really big piece of news before we get into Caleb Plant getting upset, Jermall Charlo's fight, Bektemir Melikuziev beating Darius Fulghum, all that stuff. We're going to talk about what really has been everyone in the boxing world has been talking about for the past 2 days, and that is Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez, had a fight, then it was off, then it was back on, now it's back off. So essentially last week we talked about Teofimo Lopez's big Twitter rant where he was, calling Turkey al-Sheikh a dictator and all this other stuff. And after that, we learned that apparently a fight with Devin Haney had been agreed, but not signed or anything. And after Tio's rant, it seemed unlikely that fight would take place. He then put out a little bit of an apology, I think. And this week, beginning of the week, we heard it's back on, and it's not just being negotiated and close to happening. It's not agreed. It is signed, and it is going to happen August 16th in Riyadh. I think a catch weight of 145 was what everyone was saying. Obviously, Teofimo Lopez has been looking to move up to welterweight. Devin Haney just did so. But that fight with Jose Ramirez was actually at a catch weight of, I think, 145, maybe 144 pounds. So they're both kind of in between weight classes at the moment, trying to figure out what's best for them. I don't think that either of them are necessarily in any rush to get out of 140. Even if Devin Haney says so. I think that was more of a reactionary move to get the Ryan Garcia rematch, which seems like it's not going to happen with him going hand surgery and just having a loss on his record recently. So I think that, we were supposed to get it. I don't know what the reason was, but after everything was official and everyone was talking about it, it was like, okay, there's a huge fight. Teofimo Lopez pulls out. We don't know why. It's not any injury. Doesn't seem like it was a money thing. It just seems like he didn't want to fight him. Which I know that people don't like to use the term duck, and I don't even necessarily want to use it, but it's hard to defend yourself here. I really want to know what his reasoning is for not fighting him. He said it was something along the lines he doesn't want to, fight someone who's going to be like boring and just runs around the ring the whole time, which I think is kind of boring. To be honest, off of their recent performances, I think Teofimo Lopez versus Devin Haney could be a bit of a boring fight. It'd be a highly competitive one and a really exciting one, to get the fans ready and stuff, but I actually think the fight itself would be a little bit of a dud. Neither of them are terribly exciting. Teofimo Lopez is certainly more exciting, but still, I really don't think that would be the best fight to watch. But it's one that I definitely want to see because these two have been circling each other for years. But yeah, it looks like it's no longer happening. I don't really know why. This fight seemed like it made a lot of sense now, with the plan being Teofimo versus Boots. Boots didn't want to fight Teofimo for whatever reason, and I just saw a picture of Boots. He looks big. Maybe he's up to 154 now. And then Haney was obviously supposed to rematch Garcia. That's not happening, so I don't know what's next for either of them. This made the most sense to me. I guess Teofimo Lopez could go up and challenge Brian Norman Jr., Jin Sasaki, the winner of that fight, because he does have the WBO title. He could go straight into a world title fight. Devin Haney could get himself a world title fight as well, or fight somebody else big name. I really don't know. I just feel like this made so much sense for both these guys to fight. And yeah, I really, really want to know Teofimo Lopez's real reasoning for why he's not taking the Devin Haney fight when it was all pretty much confirmed. But apparently, on that undercard, we were supposed to get, and I think we still will get, this is also reported to be agreed, is Nick Ball versus Luis Nery for the WBA featherweight title. Which, man, oh man, that is an incredible fight. That has just got war written all over it. Nick Ball is all action. Luis Nery is all action. That one is not going the distance, and that's a spectacular fight. Luis Nery obviously has lost to Inoue. They needed a win earlier this year, and now he's already in a world title fight. Is a little bit fast, but I don't hate it. And Nick Ball, I'd like to see him get in with another champion by now, but honestly, if this is his next fight, I'm not going to complain because it's going to be all action TV. But yeah, so let's get into, moving on from Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez, let's get into the weekend's action with the biggest event being the PBC doubleheader with Caleb Plant versus Armando Resendiz and Jermall Charlo versus Thomas Lamanna. So starting off with Charlo, I thought Charlo looked pretty good. I thought that he was very much, Lamanna was undermatched for him. There was a huge skill gap. Charlo was absolutely obliterating him with just his jab pretty much. He dropped him 3 times en route to a 5th round TKO victory, I think it was. But, really solid return. Didn't really, showed he still got it. But it's hard for me to take away anything from that when Lamanna just looked so terrible and looked completely out of depth in there. So I would have really liked to see Charlo get in there with Caleb Plant next. I think that's a fantastic 50-50 fight. But I don't know if it is anymore because Caleb Plant got absolutely dominated by Armando Resendiz in what could be the upset of the year. It's not just a, it was a tough fight. This was for the WBA interim super middleweight title, so it was technically a world title fight, but it's not even like Caleb Plant just got like knocked out or anything. I mean, and it was a fluke. I mean, he got completely dominated over those ones. I think I had the fight 117-111. One of the judges had a 115-113 for Caleb Plant, and thank God that another judge didn't have that because that's a horrendous scorecard. That's a robbery. I don't see how you can give Plant more than 4 rounds of that fight. There's an argument for 5, but not a very strong one. I think 116-112 Resendiz is honestly the lowest you can give him. I thought he looked great, and I thought that he really exposed that Caleb Plant just can't deal with the pressure of a Mexican fighter. We saw with Canelo. We saw with David Benavidez. And now we saw with Armando Resendiz, who was not on the same level as those guys. He used a very similar style to Canelo, with his movement and his pressure and just not laying off Plant. He was always in front of him. And it was even hurting him at times, not like knocking him down or anything, but it was, hurting him. And Caleb Plant just kind of looked old in there. And, it brings up the question, all right, he's lost 3 of his last 5 fights. That's not great. When before he'd only lost to Canelo and Benavidez, and we thought, we still got plenty of give. Those are just the 2 best guys in the division by a long shot. No, he lost to Armando Resendiz. I don't really know what's next for him. I don't. I think that you could do Charlo versus Resendiz. Resendiz said he wants that fight next. He earned it. You can't say he didn't. Charlo is now number 2 in the WBA rankings somehow. Resendiz is now the interim champion. He's a world champion technically. So I think you could do that fight. That's a good one for PBC to make. I really do not know what's next for Caleb Plant. It was shocking. Seriously shocking. I think he was a Resendiz was a minus 2,500 underdog. That's crazy. So yeah, I was blown away. And it wasn't even as much as how Resendiz fought great. He looked great. But it was more just how poor Caleb Plant fought. And it sucks to see as somebody who likes Caleb Plant. He's at a tough story, and he's at probably the prime in his career in terms of star power, and he's just kind of I don't know, he's just not performing on the level he needs to. So we'll see what's next for him. It could be another bit of a layoff, to try and get everything in order. Every time he loses, he does take a decent amount of time out of the ring. So from now on, we just kind of wait and see with him. I don't have any matchmaking for him. I'd like to see Charlo versus Resendiz. I think there's a lot of other fun fights for Charlo as well that you could dive into. 168 is a fantastic division. One that you could honestly see Resendiz get in with is Bektemir Melikuziev, who came back and he had a fantastic win over Darius Fulghum in a great fight. I thought it was a close fight. I think I had it 116-112 Melikuziev. I may have had a 115-113, but it was awesome. It was a war. Both men had their own success in there. Melikuziev is a tough guy to beat just because he's such a weird style. Hands down, lunging jab, just really, really awkward. And I think that, Fulghum just wasn't ready for that level of fight yet. This was only he's only 14 he's very young, and he'd never been put in with somebody anywhere near the level of Beck the Bully. And I wouldn't say it was Beck bullying him the whole time. I thought Fulghum had a lot of success. I thought he looked great. I just think that, Melikuziev has been at this world level for longer. That was a world title eliminator. So Melikuziev is now mandatory for the WBA title. So you could do Resendiz versus Melikuziev, and that fight is guaranteed to be a war, given their both their performances this weekend. I think that's a fantastic fight to make. 168 is a really fun division. Melikuziev even dropped Fulghum in the last round. That was maybe the best fight of the weekend. It was awesome. And, I really enjoyed it. Also, you had Eric Priest on that card who fought Luis Arias. I thought he looked great, except for the last 45 seconds where we started to get hurt a little bit and just decided to stand and trade with Arias. But he's developing really nicely. Speaking of that middleweight division, man, Yoeli Hernandez totally dominated and dog walked Kyron Davis. Like, it wasn't even close. Um, he went the distance for the first time, which is okay. He did drop him in, I think, the second round, and you can't give Davis a round of that fight. None of the judges did, neither did I. I think it's hard to find even like a solid 30 seconds to give him. Hernandez was just dominating him the whole time. It just would not get off of him. Davis had, really no way of competing. They really should have pulled him out with how little he was competing in there and taking these big shots. He was just getting bullied and beat up. He wasn't in serious danger at any point in the fight, but it's just at one point are you just in there and taking unnecessary punishment. So I thought that it was a tremendous performance for Yoeli Hernandez. I think he's number one with the WBA. He wants that Lara fight. He also called out Janibek, so he should be getting a world title fight next. I love to see Lara versus Hernandez. I think that they're both Cuban. It'd be terrific. It'd be really, really awesome TV, and I think that they should book that one next, but we'll see what they do with him. Joshua Edwards also really impressed me. Golden Boy's heavyweight prospect. He's now 2-0 with 2 KOs. I think he was an Olympian, so really excited to see him come back. Also this weekend we had Khalil Ko getting vengeance over Manuel Gallegos in Mexico. He looked really, really good, actually. And I think it was after the 6th or 7th round that Gallegos just quit on the stool, was just done. Ko had won every round pretty much. Again, just dominating him. And it was honestly similar to Hernandez Davis. He wasn't totally beating him up and stuff. He had no competitiveness left in him. He had no competition. So, it's all right, at what point we're just going to cut our losses. So they pulled him out. I think they should have done the same with Kyron Davis. They didn't. But Khalil Ko is back. He did prove it was just a fluke. Apparently he had some big training illness going into that fight, and that would explain the poor gas tank. And listen, the gas tank issues are still not resolved. I think this one ended in just the 6th or 7th round. We still have not seen him go all 10 rounds yet. So if this fight were to go the distance, we'd have more confidence. So I don't think that he's fully out of the doghouse yet, but it was good that they took this immediate rematch and got the win. And I thought he looked great. I thought he dominated him and proved it was just a fluke. I'm still that guy. Also on that card, you had Murodjon Akhmadaliev return against Luis Castillo. He stopped him a little bit longer than it needed to be, but I liked he didn't want to rush his work too much and potentially get injured or anything. He's got the big fight with Inoue in September, but he got a stoppage win. Looked decent, not his best performance again, just because I feel like he should have been able to get Castillo out of there, and there was really no need for this fight if I'm being honest, besides just staying active, and I thought he was active enough. Having a fight 8-9 months before, but whatever, it's over. He got through quickly, and that was my only worry, was him getting out, quick and easy, and he did. He also on that card, Gabriel Goyaz Valenzuela, who beat Manuel Medina, but I don't think that he really won that fight, if I'm being honest. I wasn't terribly impressed. I thought that Medina won it. I thought Medina won it 96-94. I thought it was a great fight. But it was one that I thought Medina deserved the decision in, so that sucked to see. Adrian Carrillo returned as well. He had a good win. And they also had Christian Medina on that card, who got a second-round TKO, very, very quickly. Really, really impressive. And he's actually got himself a little bit of an interesting fight set up next, as he's going to be taking on Yoshiki Takei, it seems. They're in negotiations for the Inoue Akhmadaliev co-main event. This would be, of course, for the WBO bantamweight title held by Takei. I think that's a great fight. I think that's an awesome fight. They both just fought this week and had early knockouts. I love it. I think that's great. So, battle of the undefeateds, and that'd be a fantastic co-main event for Inoue Akhmadaliev. But moving off of that card, we had the UFC Apex card, which was not the best one we've ever seen. I'm going to be honest. The main event is obviously what everyone's talking about because it didn't happen. There was no main event. Erin Blanchfield and Maycee Barber were supposed to fight. Maycee Barber misses weight, but seems okay. Day of the fight, apparently has a seizure backstage, or nearly has a seizure. Was in very, very serious, worrying people. Almost has a seizure, so doctors, of course, call off the fight, which is the right decision. It was crazy because it happened minutes before the fight. It wasn't earlier on the card we find out oh, we won't be able to make it. Similar to when Dan Ige stepped in for Brian Ortega to face Diego Lopez. We heard about that a few hours before. This was more similar to Amanda Serrano and her, announcing that she won't be fighting right then and there in the ring, right before she was supposed to make her walkout. So this is very unfortunate, very weird and wild, order of events for this to take place. Blanchfield obviously is very upset and thinks that Barber was, kind of BSing everyone and scamming them. I don't know if she was, did this maliciously. I don't think that she did. But I do think this is one that we would like to see run back. Blanchfield says she doesn't want to fight her because, she pulled this stunt on her. And I get it. You're ready. You've been training for this. You don't like this person. Your adrenaline's up. You're ready to go out there and fight them. And then at the last minute, they say no. And they leave. I get it. I get why she's frustrated. You just have to also understand that it's not like she was trying to screw you over and stuff. She almost had a seizure. But besides that, Mateusz Gamrot, I thought he looked fantastic. He had 30-27 all the way around. I would have liked to see a finish, but he looked really good. Hopefully we can get him a good fight next. I like the Arman Tsarukyan fight. They don't seem confident in giving Arman a real good fight after he pulled his stunt. So I think that we should see Arman versus Gamrot. Ramiz Brahimaj had an incredible submission. Submitted Billy Ray Goff on the feet and then just dropped him completely unconscious. That was probably the finish of the night. It was awesome. Dustin Jacoby had a first round knockout. The fight of the night was given to Alice Ardeline beating Rayan dos Santos in the first fight of the night. I thought that was a really fun fight, but looking at it, seeing that as the fight of the night, not great. It was not the best card. Some boring fights in there. A decent amount of finishes, but a lot of the fights just weren't the best, and there wasn't a lot of names on this card. And this was, the drought. This was 2 Apex cards in 3 weeks, and that's it. And then we get the big fights. Obviously, this weekend we're going to have UFC 316 with Sean O'Malley challenging Merab Dvalishvili for the bantamweight belt. Next week we're in Atlanta where we get to see Kamaru Usman, Joaquin Buckley. Week after that is Azerbaijan with Jamal Hill, Khalil Roundtree, and then we end it with Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira in Vegas. So really, really awesome run the UFC is about to go on. We just had to get through this weekend, and we did. So moving on from those events, we're going to talk about some other news. Just want to first off say, apparently, Jinjiro Shigeoka's condition is improving, according to his brother. He can now breathe on his own. He's getting a little bit closer to, coming back to consciousness, and that's just great to hear. I think we were all really worried about him, and, boxing is a very dangerous sport, and we saw that, where he didn't even get knocked down in that fight, and he was, on the brink of dying. So it's great to hear that he's, getting better. Obviously, you should never fight again, but we just want to see him pull through, and it looks like that's going to happen, hopefully. Speaking of retirement, Kosei Tanaka has just retired. Really, really interesting. He was only 29, so it's a bit of a shock, but 4-weight world champion. You know what they say, if your head isn't in it anymore, then get out of it, which I guess, but I thought he could have gotten the Fumalele Kafu rematch. I thought he had an argument for winning that fight. So it is a little bit shocking that he's just done, but, it is what it is, and happy retirement to him, I guess. It's just a bit surprising out of nowhere. So UFC Noche has been moved to San Antonio as there's construction at the Guadalajara Arena. They plan to have the 2026 UFC Noche there, or Noche UFC, I should say, and it's also now going to be a fight night. So it will no longer be a pay-per-view, so I think that the questions of Volk versus Yair Rodriguez are not as in much demand, and it really should be Volk versus Evloev. He's earned the title fight, even if it won't be as fun, and we don't want to see Evloev potentially become champion. He deserves it. And Yair doesn't quite deserve it yet. And I think that the plan was to do Volk Yair in Mexico because they need a Mexican fight in the headline. But without that, I don't think that we need to see Volk versus Yair. And we can just do Volk versus Evloev wherever the pay-per-view ends up being for September. Also in September, the week before, September 6th is going to be UFC Paris. So that's exciting. Don't really know who's on that card yet. Their Paris cards are usually pretty decent. So I'm excited to see what they have going for it. Pacquiao versus Barrios. The full card has been announced, so it's going to be Manny Pacquiao versus Mario Barrios in the main event for the WBC welterweight title. Then Sebastian Fundora versus Tim Tszyu 2 for the WBC super welterweight title. And then we've also got Isaac Pitbull Cruz versus Angel Fierro in a rematch of their fight from February, which was potential fight of the year candidate. Tremendous stuff. It was a close fight. Not one that I think needed a rematch, but one that I'm totally fine with getting a rematch because it was that good. Can't wait to see that. And then Brandon Figueroa versus Joey Gonzalez, which is also a really, really good fight. Gonzalez coming off a great win over Arnold Kagai, who looked really solid. And then you got Figueroa, who's coming off the loss to Stephen Fulton, but is still a former world champion. So I think that's a really, really well-matched fight, and this is a tremendous card. Even if the Manny Pacquiao fight shouldn't be happening, I can't wait for this night of boxing. It's on July 19th, which is super, super stacked. Speaking of July 19th, we have more news on the Bam Kafu card. So Ammo Williams is going to be returning against Etinos Olija. We knew that this had been ordered as an IBF eliminator. Matchroom won the purse for it, and they put it on this card instead of its own one. I love that. This really is a super card. You're going to get Bam Rodriguez, Fumilele Kafu, Diego Pacheco, Trevor McCumbee, and Austin Williams, Etinosa Olija. 3 really, really great, well-matched fights that I can't wait to see. Arturo Cardenas has been announced to join the card as well. We got Omari Jones on there, so I think it's going to be a really solid night. You've also got Usyk Dubois 2 earlier that day, UFC 318 with Dustin Poirier versus Max Holloway 3. Just an awesome day of fights. That really could be like the best day of the year in terms of combat sports. An interesting move, Navarrete versus Suarez was ruled a no contest by the California State Athletic Commission. Right call. That cut that stopped the fight was caused by a punch. And, at the moment, Suarez should have been called champion. But looking back, you can't really retroactively change him to the champion. So I'm fine with it being a no contest. But the WBO thereby has reordered the fight. So we're going to get a rematch, which I'm totally down for. It had a lot of question marks around it. It was a really great fight. Charlie Suarez seriously impressed me. And he's now going to get his rematch and another shot at the title he arguably should have been wearing. So excited to see this one run back. They'll probably do it closer to the end of the year, and it was a war, so really excited to see that one. We've also heard that the deal for Stephen Fulton versus Oshaki Foster is apparently done for the Tank Roach 2 undercard, which will likely be in the co-main event. PBC versus Top Rank, we know they've got a new, partnership they're trying out. This is a really good fight in terms of, how competitive it'll be. I am a little bit concerned for Fulton's size. Foster is a lot bigger than him. And again, this is another one of those fights that could end up not being great, but it's one that I'm really intrigued by, and I'd love to see take place, and looks like we're going to get that. I would assume that Fulton moving up means he's going to vacate his featherweight title sooner rather than later, which means that the winner of Carrington Hita would likely be upped to full champion, unless, of course, Fulton loses to Foster and then comes back down to 126 to fight the winner of that fight. But, yeah, man, this is just this is a really, really good fight, and I'm excited to see it. The WBC have also ordered a rematch between Badu Jack and Noel McCallion. They had honestly the best fight on the Canelo versus Skull card. It was very, very close. I kind of edged it to McCallion. If not that, it was a draw. And it could have gone Jack's way as well. Jack got the decision. So I don't mind seeing a rematch in terms of, it was a good fight and it was really close. So I would like to see a run back. But also, it's a weird move by the WBC to order it, which kind of makes me feel like, do they really have no other contenders for cruiserweight? Is it that drive a weight class? But if you think about it, this way the belt is going to stay active in the second half of the year while Opatai and Zerto hopefully meet. And then the winners of those 2 fights can then fight each other for undisputed. So that's all well and good. UFC Nashville's got a new addition with Wonderboy versus Gabriel Bonfim. Man, they're really just selling out Thompson to the Wolves here. Every single time he's in a really tough fight. And I don't know if I see him winning this one, I'm being honest. But great fight. Nashville's getting a good one. I'm excited for this card. And, Bonfim's on the rise. Wonderboy could be on his way out, but I like this fight a lot. Mirko Cuello versus Sergio Rios for the WBA interim featherweight title has been announced for August 1st in Libya. Cuello has obviously been mandatory for Ball for a while. I thought it could be Ball versus Cuello next, which I wouldn't be mad at either. I do prefer Ball Neary, but Cuello still gets, to solidify his contender and interim champion status with this fight. Sergio Rios is 19-0. I'm not too familiar with him. Cuello did not look great in his last fight, but was able to end it well. So it could be an interesting one, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that. Salida Promotions have signed and announced. They've signed both Olivia Curry and Kay Scott and announced that they will be fighting each other in a WBA WBC middleweight unification fight. We don't have a location or a date yet, but it is interesting how they, after MVP has just had this huge movement over the past few months with signing all the best women's champions and stuff, Salida, who before felt like they were the number one in terms of women's boxing because they had Clarissa Shields, they felt the need to step up. So, they have Clarissa Shields, they got Franchon Cruz Dezern now, they've got some other, interim title fights, world title eliminators on the Claressa Shields card. They've got these two champions now signed and ready to fight each other. The issue is that they don't have the big names. Shields and Cruz deserve, sure, but I don't even really know much at all about Curry or Scott. And if you look at all of MVP signing, they're all big name women's champions. So I'd like to see Salida stepping up and signing more world champion fighters, and that way we can see better shows from them. But yeah, I just don't know if they're gonna be able to compete with MVP. But I do like the stance they're taking, and they're trying to solidify themselves as number 2 in women's boxing. More stuff about the John Jones Tom Aspinall situation. He says that the Tom fight is agreed, but they're waiting for the announcement for the next fight. They said they agreed not to say anything about it, and they they're waiting for the UFC to announce that. Just really weird. And then Tom Aspinall says that he has the date and location for his next fight confirmed. So it seems like it's set, but I feel like we've been saying the same thing for the past year. I'm like, oh yeah, it looks like it's set, but it's really not. Or I really don't know. Tom Aspinall says he's a date and a location. He doesn't say he's an opponent. So it could be Tom Aspinall, it could be John Jones. It could be Cyril Gane, for all that we know. So I don't really know when we'll find out. I hope it's soon because we're seeing what really is Aspinall's prime just spent on the bench, and waiting for this fight that may not ever come. But I hope it does. Nonito Donaire has been confirmed to return June 14th, so in 2 weeks, versus Andres Campos for the WBA interim bantamweight title in Argentina. He is 42 years old. Just a reminder, so this would make him mandatory for Antonio Vargas, who was the former interim champion before getting up to full champion with Tsutsumi in injury recovery. So we'll see if he wins this fight. I don't know if he will. I mean, he's not like he's jumping into an easy fight. He's jumping into a world interim title fight. So Campos is going to give him all that he's got. And at 42, I'm not really sure. I think he's inspired by fellow Filipino Manny Pacquiao and wanting to come back into a world title fight. But we'll see. I hope he's been training because this is short notice for an announcement of a world title fight in just a few weeks. Roman Dolidze versus Anthony Hernandez and Alex Perez versus Steve Erceg have been announced for UFC Vegas 109 on August 9th. Pretty solid, if you ask me. I think that the Dolidze-Hernandez fight is really, really good. I'm excited to see Erceg come back. And yeah, that's a really good doubleheader for an Apex card. I hope it's a good one. We are not going to have any Apex cards for the next 2 months, thankfully. I think that this is the next one. Actually, no, they may have a card on August 2nd. But for June and July, there are no Apex cards, which is really, really great. Moving on from that, PFL, speaking of the Apex, are no longer going to be doing the Orlando Studios thing. Yeah, so they had a venue at Universal Studios in Orlando, where they did all 4 of the first round of the PFL World Tournament events. The fans didn't like it. Probably wasn't great for tickets and stuff. So they said, all right, you know what? And they even said, Don Davis in his tweet, compared it to the UFC Apex, said, we learned that it doesn't work for you guys. We're not going to do it anymore. From now on, PFL is only on the road, which is good. Fights deserve to be in front of crowds, and they've got that for the rest of the year. They've got decent arenas, but I don't know why they did this other thing besides just it being cheap. But they're moving away from it. They didn't do that last season, and yeah, it looks like we're only going to get good locations from the PFL from now on. BKFC celebrated their 7-year anniversary, so that's really fun. It's crazy they've been around for 7 years. They've also just gotten big in the last few years, but they're on a huge rise, and by their 10-year anniversary, they're going to be in a crazy spot. Eubank Jr. is going to feature in The Gentleman Season 2, the Guy Ritchie Netflix show. I just thought that's great. I think that he fits into that role so well. Again, he's probably going to be in one scene, but I just think that's a really fun cameo to have. He does kind of act like a real, gentleman in terms of what those characters are like, So I think that he could be really funny, and I could really see him as an actor. Tyson Fury also announced that he has a Netflix show coming up, a documentary, so that's fun. So yeah, I mean, it's just the British fighters are getting into Netflix a lot, it seems. And then lastly, this isn't really too big of news, but Taylor Bevan, who's a Matchroom fighter, is going to be fighting on the Ryan Gardner-Reese Bellotti undercard, which is a Queensberry show. So I love this for, Matchroom and Queensberry both working on DAZN is, it's Queensberry show, but it's a Queensberry versus Matchroom main event. So, and it's on DAZN. So Matchroom's like, yeah, let's throw one of our fighters on the card. And Queensberry's like, yeah, throw them on. So they can do that when they have these events. They're working together, like this weekend with Fabio Wardley, Justice Hooney. It's Queensberry's show, but it's a Matchroom fighter in the main event. So they can, Eddie Hearn can come and he can promote the show, like really promote it. Say, yeah, watch it on DAZN. And the same goes the other way with Frank Warren. If Eddie Hearn has a show and it's a Matchroom versus Queensberry main event, Frank Warren come on there. He can throw a Queensberry fighter on the card. You can make these fights so much easier now, and I love to see that that's what we're doing with this new deal. So that's really exciting. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I tried to go through it quickly. Kind of do another episode either Thursday or Friday. A lot of great fights coming up. Tomorrow night we have the Albert Ramirez fight, which I think is going to be good. I did see that Christopher Guerrero is now off that card. His opponent was injured, but we still got him. We still got Mehmet Unal fighting. We still have Arthur Biarso now fighting. Moreno Findero. The Eye of the Tiger cards are always so much fun. And, you got prospects like Eric Israelian on. So it's going to be a really fun card. If I do an episode Friday, I'll talk about that one and preview the rest of the fights. But, yeah, it's going to be a really great weekend. Tons of crazy stuff. And, thank you so much for listening, and peace out.